What if your personal life was under a national microscope, and every decision you made could put you on trial? Meet Kody Brown, the father of sister wives, whose alternative family life didn't only make headlines, it landed him in court. Off camera, behind the happy faces, a courtroom fight was underway that would test everything he thought he knew about family, love, and survival. You won't believe what happened next. Imagine waking up one morning to find that your entire life, your family, your relationships, your private decisions is suddenly under a microscope. And not just any microscope, but one that stretches across the entire country, with millions of strangers watching your every move. This was the life for Kody Brown, the man at the center of one of America's most popular reality TV shows, Sister Wives. Kody Brown was not your average TV personality. He didn't become a household name from singing, acting, or competing. His fame derived from something far more intimate and at many levels provocative. His family, Kody had not one but 4 wives, spiritually 3 and legally 1. Plural marriage or polygamy was the foundation of a tale that would take the country by storm. To millions, Sister Wives provided a glimpse into a life that was both intriguing and perplexing. How did one man keep house with 18 kids and several wives? How did the family manage day-to-day, holidays, and the emotional nuances that accompanied such an existence? Viewers watched, critics wrote, and yet, off-camera, Kody struggled with issues far more consequential than the quagmire of family life. The greatest challenge, however, was not from critics or cameras, but from the law. Polygamy, although culturally practiced in certain groups, is not legal in most of the United States. Kody legally married only Robin, his 4th wife, but was spiritually married to Mary, Janelle, and Christine. Although these spiritual marriages had no legal standing, authorities and skeptics frequently challenged whether his lifestyle transgressed the law. And that's when the courtroom came into play. The instant Kody walked into the courtroom for the first time, it was as if he was entering a new world. The atmosphere was thicker, the walls thicker, and the eyes more critical than anything he had ever witnessed on television. Unlike reality television shows, where tension and conflict are scripted or manipulated for dramatic purposes, the courtroom was pure, unadulterated, and merciless. Here, each word he uttered, each choice he justified, had profound repercussions, not for his ratings, but for the freedom and stability of his family. It wasn't solely about Kody's legal status, it was about safeguarding his family. Consider the task of explaining to a judge why you reside in a home with more than 1 wife and almost 2 children. How do you defend it? How do you attest that, in spite of going against traditional norms, your family works, flourishes, and above all that the children are well cared for, contented, and loved? This was the essential conflict Kody was up against, the crossroads of individual desire and public scrutiny. On the one hand, there was his family, whom he adored deeply and wished to defend at any cost. On the other, there was the law, the expectations of society, and a media spectacle that never seemed to stop inquiring. Adding to the pressure was the realization that Kody's family life was not only personal but also public property. Millions of people viewed Sister Wives, and that meant that any court appearance, any legal filing, and any argument that he made could be picked apart on social media, in the news, and in forums. The stakes were higher than most realize. A single misstep in the courtroom could not only affect his legal status, but could also have a ripple effect on the public image of the family, the television show, and even on the security of the children. Kody frequently referred to these court appearances as emotionally taxing. Across from attorneys, judges, and critics, he needed to be calm, collected, and clear-headed, even when the questions were intrusive or accusatory. Questions were not merely legality, they were morality, parenting, and what society condoned. Attorneys would inquire about his means to support such a big family, education for the children, socialization, and even scenarios about discipline and family conflicts. But Kody didn't only defend himself, he defended a way of life that millions of Americans were unfamiliar with. He needed to persuade the court that polygamy, though unorthodox, wasn't equivalent to neglect or abuse. Each child had food, shelter, love, and education. Each wife had a voice, chores, and a place in the home. And maybe most of all, the family worked together in mutual respect, communication, and comprehension, a thing not common among most people outside their group. Even in the tension, Kody's courtroom experiences also showcased his strength. He was forced to cut through elaborate legal language, surprise procedural hurdles, and frequently face an apparatus that appeared inclined to doubt, but he pushed on. His approach wasn't merely one of legality, but of narrative, telling a judge, jury, or inquiring observer the truth of his family as it could be accessed. There were moments of terror, indeed. There were hostile questions at some hearings, neighborly challenges, and even media intrusion that made legal proceedings a public spectacle. Picture sitting in a courtroom and knowing that a misstated remark can be heard by millions, perhaps igniting criticism or legal retribution. For Kody, the courtroom was not only a venue for law, it was a pressure cooker of attention, feeling, and cultural judgment. Yet, through it all, one thing became clear: Kody Brown was not just fighting for himself, he was fighting for his family's identity and survival. Every step he took, every legal argument he presented, and every long day he spent in hearings reinforced a simple but powerful truth. Family comes first, even in the most intimidating and hostile environments. What made this start really appalling to watch was the magnitude of the stakes. This wasn't about an individual's life decisions. It was about spouses, children, houses, and the ability to live other than what was expected in society. For Kody, each appearance in court was a character test, a test of patience, and a test of creativity. Each lawyer, each objection, each gavel bang reminded him that, in the law's eyes, his family's lifestyle was at risk of being challenged at any moment. And yet, in spite of fear, tension, and doubt, Kody persisted. He knew that fighting in the courtroom took more than knowledge of the law. It took persuasion, emotional intelligence, and an absolute commitment to those he loved most. By the conclusion of this introductory chapter, one thing was certain. The world was aware that Kody Brown's life was anything but typical. The cameras had caught the drama of everyday family life, but the courtroom had laid bare the true fights that loomed to topple everything. And for viewers, it was only the beginning of a tale of suspense, emotion, and a struggle for family that no one could have expected. For Kody Brown, the battle wasn't over when the cameras ceased rolling. It was just getting started. As millions of viewers watched the daily life of the Brown family on Sister Wives, off-camera Kody was fighting one of the toughest battles of his life, finding a home that legally allowed him to house all of his large family. With 4 wives and 18 kids, daily life was already mind-boggling. But zoning laws in the area put into question a threat that had the potential to split up his family. Zoning regulations, which might seem dry to everyone else, proved to be a major hindrance. Towns have tough rules regarding how many individuals can reside in one household, how many can fit inside, and how houses are allowed to be subdivided. Kody's family, with its sheer number of members, was always at risk of breaking these codes. To him, it wasn't merely a bureaucratic nuisance, it was a battle for his family's safety, stability, and cohesiveness. The court fight started quietly, with threat letters from local officials stating that the family's living situation was possibly illegal. But then it heated up. Kody received a subpoena to defend the safety of having 18 children in one household. It was a bizarre scenario. A man who had created a healthy, functioning family now had to defend his family to strangers as not being illegal for just being alive. Entering the courtroom, Kody was greeted by skepticism and judgment. Lawyers queried him regarding money, asking if he could afford to support such a big family. They queried education and medical care, questioning whether each child got its due. Neighbors testified regarding concerns regarding overpopulation, creating a picture that to the outside world appeared daunting. But Kody's defense was based on something much stronger than legalese: responsibility and love. He talked about how each child had their own territory, how chores were structured, and how each wife had a vital role in keeping the home peaceful. He outlined the family's schedules, their schooling systems, and how he guaranteed each child's emotional and social health. One of the most dramatic moments in these hearings was when Kody discussed the emotional lives of his children. Judges were curious to know if the children had a chance to socialize, have hobbies, or live a normal childhood. Kody told of birthday parties, school activities, sports, and family traditions. He presented a picture of a home filled with love, order, and activity, a place where children are cared for, not abandoned. But the courtroom was not just about talking, it was about evidence. Kody and his attorneys brought papers, school records, and testimony from teachers and friends. Pictures of the house, of children playing, of homework, and of milestones, became proof of the stability of the family. All details were important, from the number of beds to the rotation of chores, because at stake was nothing more than whether this family could stay together in one home. Meanwhile, as the legal battle was underway, Kody had to endure the media glare as well. Media and bloggers covered the hearings at length, sensationalizing the case. Headlines painted a sensational, sometimes inaccurate picture of a man attempting to bend the law. For Kody, this was a double battle, winning the case in court and winning his family's reputation in the court of public opinion. With all this, the psychological burden was tremendous. Picture sitting in a courtroom, aware that one tiny miscommunication can lead to fines, eviction, or even court action that could tear family members apart. Kody habitually remarked on the tension as unmanageable, but he would not let fear guide his reactions. Serene, calm, and unflappable, he approached every hearing with resolve. The battle also uncovered tensions among the family members. Every wife and child experienced the pressure differently. Some worried about the possible repercussions, others upset at being under constant scrutiny. Kody not only had to navigate the legal quagmire, but also the emotional health of his family. Counseling sessions, family gatherings, and meticulous planning were as important as his courtroom arguments. What made this narrative even more engaging for audiences was the collision of public law and private life. Kody's struggle wasn't merely about obeying laws, it was about defying social expectations. Could an unconventional family environment still offer love, structure, and leadership? Could the law be malleable enough to acknowledge atypical but working families? Kody's courtroom struggles turned into an experiment for these questions. In between the tension, there were glimmers of hope and little successes. Judges would every now and then recognize the family's organization, and witnesses testified to the children's health. These instances kept Kody going, reminding him that the battle, as long as it was worthwhile. Each successful hearing made the case stronger that the Browns were not violating the law, just living differently. In the end, this battle for family freedom was not just about legality, it was about identity, autonomy, and the right to defend loved ones. Kody Brown came out not only a reality TV personality, but as a man who needed to demonstrate, in the most hostile environment possible, that love and commitment could exist in many forms. At the close of this chapter, one thing was certain. The battle for a home was a battle for the heart of the family itself, and though the cameras would go on to document drama and daily life, the courtroom wars showed the stakes, the bravery, and the unyielding devotion that kept the Brown family intact. Courtrooms are designed to be objective, rational, and factual, but for Kody Brown, every hearing turned into an emotional warfare that tried his every fiber of patience, courage, and love for his family. While sessions 1 and 2 were about the legal and practical difficulties of Kody's life, session 3 goes into the human aspect of the struggle. The anguish, worry, and raw emotions no camera could ever capture. For Kody, the courtroom was not merely a venue of law. It was a venue where all decisions regarding his family's future were questioned, judged, and criticized. One of the hardest things about these legal disputes was being constantly asked questions about the children. Judges, attorneys, and sometimes even experts would ask if children could really prosper in a polygamous home. Was it too full? Were they getting enough attention? Would they be able to grow socially and emotionally like children growing up in conventional families? For Kody, these questions cut very close to the bone. As a father of 18 children, he knew that every child's happiness relied not just on love, but on structure, on guidance, and on opportunity. He had to stand in the courtroom and recount how he and his wives saw to it that each child had a voice, a place, and a safe place to be. He talked about bedtime rituals, school calendars, extracurricular activities, and family meetings meant to sort out conflicts and provide fairness. Imagine having to describe something as intimate as your children's lives to strangers, knowing that their judgment could decide the family's fate. That's exactly what Kody faced. Some days, the stress was almost unbearable. In private, he admitted feeling the pressure of balancing honesty with strategy, revealing enough to defend his family but not so much that it could be used against them. Aside from the logistics, the hearings would also become very emotional experiences. Lawyers would grill him on moral issues. How do you father several children with different mothers without triggering jealousy or resentment? How do you deal with conflicts among wives? How can a family like this live in harmony with society judging them? Kody was forced to respond with honesty, illustrating that love, patience, and respect were the building blocks of his family. He spoke of not only rules but daily gestures of devotion, homework assistance, mediating between siblings, attending school functions, marking milestones, and infusing joy into what is often an abnormal household arrangement. These weren't legal cases. They were human narratives, proving family survives on merit, not conformity. The courtroom also showed the bearing of public opinion. Each hearing could have reporters attending or read in news summaries, so that Kody's emotional outbursts were even more strained. A tear dropped over the well-being of his children might be taken the wrong way as a sign of weakness or culpability, instead of the raw emotion of a father struggling for his family. There were moments when testimony grew especially poignant. Think of having to retell moments of tension or struggle in your home, not for a personal reflection, but for strangers whose judgments might determine the course of your children's lives. Kody discussed challenging times, arguments between wives, the efforts of keeping chaos under control in the home, and even moments of uncertainty, but always highlighted the love that kept the family united. Amid the stress, there were glimpses of victory. When the court showed appreciation for the children's good academic work or emotional stability, Kody felt revitalized. Minor successes, such as a judge showing empathy for the family's routines, reinforced the notion that their lifestyle could be viewed as legitimate and viable. A further depth of emotional complexity arose from within the family. All the wives and children had their own anxieties and resentments regarding the legal attention. Kody frequently played both father and peacemaker simultaneously, making sure that feelings didn't escalate into fighting while keeping his cool in front of the judges. Family gatherings were now strategic and therapeutic as a means of dealing with tension and, on a practical level, preparing for the next hearing. The courtroom also pushed Kody to face judgment from society directly. Attorneys, judges, and observers at times questioned the morality of his way of life, suggesting that love was not sufficient to explain plural marriage. For Kody, this was likely the most emotionally draining part, having to explain to others how a non-traditional family could work as well, or even better than a traditional family. But through the highs and lows of emotions, something stood firm: Kody's steadfast devotion to his family. Every question, every protest, and every questioning stare was greeted with unwavering resolve. He understood that the courtroom was not merely a war over legal entitlements, but also over the emotional wholeness and oneness of the Browns. These hearings were not merely about legality. They were a tutorial in resilience, empathy, and leadership. Kody discovered that resisting for family at times means presenting vulnerability, standing strong under examination, and proving that love and dedication can transcend norms. By the close of these high-emotion sessions, it was evident that Kody's most significant wins weren't simply counted in legal victories, but in his capacity to maintain his family intact, flourishing, and established for the care and devotion they had for each other. The courtroom could have been cold and institutional, but Kody Brown's heart, resolve, and love for his family had made it a space where courage and emotional fortitude had as much currency as arguments of law. And for viewers, this chapter of his life revealed a truth that reality TV could never fully capture. The fight to protect family is as emotional as it is legal. And no amount of cameras can show the full depth of that struggle. Just when Kody Brown thought the storm was passing, the courtroom threw him curveballs he never saw coming. After months of hearings, court arguments, and strained confrontations, the Browns' ordeal may finally be coming to an end. But life was not that straightforward. Just like in a soap opera series, there were new problems when least anticipated, taking what appeared to be progress into moments of doubt. One of the earliest serious complications was from neighboring residents and complaints from the community. Although a few neighbors were supportive of the Browns or remained neutral, others objected, claiming zoning issues, noise disturbance, and the unusual makeup of the household. Personal privacy had confronted Kody with public scrutiny when he had to field complaints that were sometimes trivial but had legal implications. The trial sessions grew more intense. Lawyers questioned witnesses, breaking down everyday minutiae into testable facts. Musing questions, how dinner was cooked, who shared which bed, were followed by probing questions, how decisions were reached in the family and whether conflicts would lead to unhealthy extremes. Kody had to keep his cool under tremendous stress, responding to questions that sometimes seemed intrusive but were essential to the defense of his family's lifestyle. Complicating the melodrama were surprise legal challenges. Some zoning interpretations were arbitrary, and the regulations occasionally seemed to clash with each other. Judges had to navigate laws and the practicalities of a big non-traditional family. Every hearing presented new testimony, new arguments from the opposition, and new avenues for the court to challenge Kody's decisions. What was gained on one day could become lost the following day. The most stressful experience was the expert witnesses. Experts were brought in to assess the household, the health of the children, and the organization of the family. Their depictions could greatly influence the court's impression. There were experts who doubted whether it was possible to take care of 18 children, implying the situations to be crazy or dangerous. Kody needed to combat with everything in explanations, schedules, and evidence of his stable family. The right choice of words was everything. The media naturally enhanced the twists. Journalists covered hearings, recording each gavel bang, each objection, and each emotional moment. Headlines created a portrait of strife, occasionally overplaying tension or presenting the Browns' home as extreme. This made Kody's battle not only legal but also public. Every ruling could shape public opinion and affect the family's name. The stress wasn't limited to the courtroom. At home too, tensions ran high. Wives and children endured the anxiety of constant public scrutiny, dreading the repercussions of every hearing. Fights would sometimes erupt over logistics, privacy, or fear of legal consequences. Kody had to handle these tensions carefully, making sure that the family as a whole was kept together while getting ready for court battles. And in the midst of the turmoil, Kody showed great strength and strategic prowess. He handled every hearing with care, foretelling objections, laying out evidence in detail, and always highlighting the stability and love that characterized the Brown family. His aim was clear, to persuade the court that their non-traditional lifestyle didn't compromise the health of the children or the home. Arguably the most surprising turn of events came when one of the most contentious hearings dragged on for hours, trying the patience of all concerned. Lawyers haggled over zoning regulations, fiscal ability, and child-raising arrangements in mind-numbing detail. Neighbors and witnesses gave contradictory testimonies, and the judge listened closely, considering each shred of evidence. For Kody, this was not only a court fight, it was an endurance test, an exercise in emotional toughness, and a trial of family unity. Along the way, small wins kept hope alive. Judges would occasionally acknowledge the organization of the family, the children's success in school, and the home life. Affirming witnesses confirmed Kody's assertions, giving testimony that supported the day-to-day reality he experienced, a structured, loving, and functioning home life. Every nod, no matter how slight, encouraged Kody to continue fighting. The twists and turns also revealed a larger truth. Non-traditional families tend to receive more criticism for just being outside the norm. Kody's experiences displayed how non-traditional arrangements might be misunderstood or questioned, not necessarily due to neglect or dysfunction, but due to society not knowing how to grasp a family that functioned differently. Even with the challenges, Kody never lost sight of his ultimate goal, defending his family. He understood that winning in court matters, but emotional balance, a united family and strength under pressure were equally as important. He steered his children, comforted his wives, and carefully prepared for every hearing, demonstrating that determination, strategy and love could prevail over even the most daunting obstacles. By the close of this chapter, it was certain that Kody Brown's journey wasn't anywhere near finished. The courtroom had challenged him in ways he could never have predicted, often wearing him down, but it had also revealed his commitment, courage and strategic mind. Every twist and turn became a tale of resilience, a testament to the extent one father would go to keep his family safe from forces, legal, societal and emotional, that sought to drive them apart. Such is the world where rules are hard, and there are traditions. Kody Brown's experience teaches us that love and family can survive the most unexpected storms, and that sometimes courage and commitment are more important than conformity. Kody Brown had waited months of courtroom fights, sleepless nights, and roller coaster rides of emotion, only to finally see a glimmer of light at the end of a long tunnel. But the experience had taught him lessons he would never forget. The legal battles that had once seemed insurmountable were finally shaping up to resolve. Although the battle was by no means easy, the court increasingly recognized the structure, organization, and nurturing within the Brown family home. Judges and attorneys increasingly came to see that Kody and his wives were not negligent or irresponsible. They were operating a complicated, loving, and functioning family business. For Kody, this was about winning more than a court case. It was about a personal victory. He had battled not merely for property rights, zoning permits, or legal acceptance, but for the heart of his family's freedom and existence. Every argument, paper, and witness account had been a journey toward demonstrating that unorthodox families can succeed, provided with commitment, love, and proper organization. The children, long at the center of the hearings, now stood as proof of Kody's dedication. Their academic achievements, their social growth, and their emotional stability were all underscored as irrefutable testament that family structure cannot be defined by convention. For viewers, this unveiled a stark truth: love, guidance, and attention could be in forms society may not fully comprehend, and yet still thrive. Aside from the legal system, the experience had left its mark on Kody himself. He learned that persistence despite critical scrutiny is one of the most vital lessons a parent can learn. Every challenge had compelled him to think twice about his approaches, to talk to his wives more constructively, and to build greater resilience in coping with stress, criticism, and uncertainty. Even the media circus, which had previously magnified every concern and challenge, now played a different role. Supporters and fans had seen the struggle, learning about the nuance and resilience of the Brown family. Kody's legal wars were no longer just a legal tale. They were a teaching point for others dealing with non-traditional family structures, demonstrating that courage and determination could conquer societal disapproval. There were also lessons at the personal level that went beyond legal issues. Kody understood the need for open communication in the family, shared responsibilities among the wives, and emotional stability for the children. Each session in the courtrooms, stressful as they were, had driven home the need for openness, planning, and respect. At the end of these wars, the Brown family was stronger, more united, and resilient. Kody not only had defended their right to coexist, but also proved that alternative families were worthy of recognition and protection by the law. It was a triumph that went beyond the courtroom. A triumph of love, commitment, and unending devotion to family. But the story also was a warning. Kody understood that legal acceptance and societal permission were constant battles. Laws could shift, minds could change, and new issues could emerge. But with experience, toughness, and a profound understanding of what his family needed, he was ready for whatever would come next. In the end, Kody Brown's quest was about more than polygamy, zoning regulations, or trial drama. It was about taking a stand for what one believes in, defending those one cares about, and redefining what family is. In a world that so often judges from tradition or looks, Kody's tale shows that love, dedication, and bravery can counter expectation and survive even the most extreme trials. The courtroom wars may have tried the Browns in ways unimaginable, but ultimately they emerged not only legally victorious, but emotionally stronger, more together, and prepared to take on the future as one. Kody Brown's tale reminds us all that family is not determined by rules or tradition, but by the love and commitment that bind it.